everyone, and welcome back to the Aiscend AI Podcast, where real estate meets innovation. I'm your host, Hannah Taylor, realtor, investor, and AI strategist, helping brokerages bridge the gap between technology and true human connection. Today, I'm joined by Ryan Schroder, founder of Fuse Real Estate in the Twin Cities. Ryan has built what many tried to, but few succeed, a fully integrated real estate ecosystem that includes property management, a brokerage, construction, and even mortgage. He's also one of the most forward-thinking operators I've met, spending nearly 2 hours a day experimenting with AI tools and building custom automations to power his business. In this episode, we'll talk about how Ryan's blending old school hustle with cutting edge tech and what it takes to automate complex systems like MLS-driven outreach, and why finding the right AI talent has been one of his toughest and most rewarding challenges yet. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thank you for the great intro.
Of course. So I'm super inspired by you. You've been in the business for about 15 years now, starting from property management and expanding into multiple verticals. So can you walk us through that, how the evolution happened and what the vision behind Fuse is today?
Sure. Well, it did definitely start as a property management company first. So I didn't have the vision that of the company that I have today wasn't where it started. At first I was actually a hotel broker at the time, and the market had kind of gone down a lot. And it was like, and now it's time to get out of here and find something more stable. So property management with the monthly aspect of it, I love the subscription model of it. So that's where I got going. And then because in Minnesota, it's the same license to have a property management company as it is to have a brokerage, it felt like a very natural thing for us to add that later because it didn't really require any real lift. We already had the trust accounts, licensing, and all this kind of stuff. So, and we needed agents to be able to do our leasing. And one of the ways that we attracted agents early on was to say, hey, everybody pays for leads, whether it's Zillow or whomever, but we can give you free leads in the form of tenant prospects. So when you have these people constantly calling you looking for housing, many of them can qualify to buy a home. So we started to kind of build a brokerage right out of our property management company. What we started to realize is that the real estate itself is like a hub, and we can start to build spokes off of that hub that are related services. So from there, we added the construction arm next because we started to look at who are we outsourcing the most to. Right now, it's to general contractors. And so from there, we decided to bring that in-house. That was kind of a doozy to pass that test. Everybody thought it was going to be impossible for somebody who's never picked up a hammer their whole life. And I'll admit it was a tough test, but I focused strictly on how to pass the test, not anything to do with the trades. But and then, bit by bit, once you start to have some of that inertia, adding on other related businesses just kind of becomes a little bit easier. But to anybody who would ask me, would I do it again? I would probably have waited a lot longer to diversify and gotten my management company a lot bigger before I started to diversify, because I almost have a little bit of entrepreneurial ADD. Once things start to go well, I have to add a new challenge.
I understand that completely, and I feel like I'm the same way, where I'm always trying to constantly evolve and learn something new and chase the next thing. But there's a lot to say about becoming the master of none, if you're spreading yourself a little too thin. But I don't think that's what's going on here. I think you actually have mastered quite a bit. So tell me a little bit about where you're spending the majority of your day-to-day today. Is it continuing to grow that property management side of things, or are you dabbling in all areas of the business?
So for the previous 2.5 years, I was on a mission to find people who were the opposite of me, that had a lot of corporate experience and polished educations and things like that, but wanted to leave those jobs and come and work in the real estate entrepreneurial field. So bit by bit, I found an operator to take over each of the divisions of my company, and then I spent 6 to 12 months training them shoulder to shoulder in order for them to be the main person running those businesses. And then I found myself like, okay, now what do I do with my time? So that's when AI came into the picture, right as I was in the process of transitioning from being the day-to-day operator. This wonderful thing, ChatGPT, just plops in our laps and kind of blows my mind. And I didn't really honestly know what we were going to do with it, but I knew that it was the next wave. And if I could credit myself for anything, it was timing along the way, like knowing when to get into property management. I got into that just at the right time. I got into flipping just at the right time. I sold just at the right time. And I feel like the market conditions are always giving and taking something. And you have to be, open to what that is and being adaptable and pivot. And so for me, it's been all about AI systems. I'm at this weird age where I'm like, not so old as I'm ready to be done, but I'm not so young as it all comes as easy to me as it once did with tech. So I definitely rely on a lot of other people to be able to kind of get through some of it.
Yeah, I love that. I think I'm probably right in that same age frame where it's like I'm inspired. I want to learn as much as possible. I want to utilize and integrate this, but I'm not the 24-year-old that can basically build these systems myself.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, with everything that you got, you're intensely leaning into AI. So tell me a little bit about that journey and what you've tried and what hasn't worked for you in the past.
Well, for most people, it starts with ChatGPT, right? Their journey. And so at first, it was just simple things like help me to adjust the tone of this email when I was ready to fire off on somebody. And then from there, it started to go into like helping with ideas for social media, with reels and scripting and everything. But I started to learn that if you speak to your GPT and it hears your voice and you talk to it all the time and it learns about you, that it can really I basically implanted all my missions and goals, values, objectives. I personalized it a lot in order to be able to advise me. But that was kind of just the gateway drug, to be honest. And then from there, it opened up to we got a subscription to this tool called Go High Level, which is a CRM that's extremely open to API integrations. And so anything you want to connect to it, you pretty much can. So I started using API connections to connect to the social media accounts for posting. And then from there was like uploading and scraping lists and stuff. So nowadays, what I'm doing with AI is a little bit more complex where um, we're using it to basically connect to data sources and then data mine and then create triggers for events that are happening in real time and create personalized messages and then do an outreach to prospective clients so that it comes across as more thoughtful and original than it would if it were just blanket marketing. So for example, let's say you're a real estate agent and you've got a listing at 123 Main Street in Denver and it's been on the market for more than 60 days and has had a price drop. Well, I can take those as triggers and combine them, create a custom crafted message geared towards that real estate agent that has the subject line with the address, property address in it, and certain reference points to the triggers, and it feels like it wasn't just a spam then at that point.
Mm,
So it's
yeah.
not just been, how do I put it? It's been able to help us to get spam feel not like spam.
Adding that personalization touch to everything, right? To make it feel
Yeah.
like somebody's actually behind the scene. I really like that. Have you seen a lot of adaption with those types of tools with your agents, and have they had any results from that?
I would characterize it as a lot of this stuff is being done behind the scenes with myself and a tech team. I've got one guy in Pakistan, and I've got a couple of interns here that help me with it. And so we are basically creating these systems and things in the back end. And when there's a lead, we forward it on to the salespeople. But the salespeople themselves, it's too technical to be honest. When people ask me what it's like, I tell them it's like driving a Formula One race car. Sure, it's a car, but it's not like a regular car. It's so powerful and so technical that if you don't know what you're going to do, you're just going to spin out and crash it. So uh, we
Yeah.
more get them curated and qualified a little bit before the salespeople get involved.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good analogy, honestly. Like, it does feel like if you're someone who's not really well versed in technology, and then all of a sudden someone's trying to push AI on you, it just feels like it's a little too much. But I do think, for me, my theory is like this is like the creation of the internet. It's going to dramatically change everything that we're all doing, and everybody is going to have to evolve and adapt at some point to some level. And those who don't will miss out on the rewards, right? And so that's really interesting to hear. So how, like, I guess with you slowly rolling things out to people and the salespeople not really taking things on, is there anything that's been successful so far that they have really adapted to or loved?
Um, I guess the things that we've probably gotten the most success from is we use ChatGPT to create our own custom GPTs. For example, one of them is to create standard operating procedure manuals for all of the operations of our company. So if you think about it, you can upload, your policies and your logos in a certain format that you want them in, and that's been able to help us to create policy documents really quickly and efficiently. And probably the most popular one is we created a GPT where we uploaded all of the rental criteria for the different cities, because each city has its own little layered nuances, and then you have the state laws and stuff. And so now we can just drop in the application, the credit, the income, all that kind of stuff, and the city that they're applying for, and it'll compare it against the criteria, and it'll create a custom report with an approval or a denial, plus the reasons, the rationale. It'll do all the income calculations. It's actually programmed to do the background check as well, and like look for them on like felony databases and things like that. So what was normally taking 45 minutes now takes 30 seconds. And then on top of it, what spits out is a report that's way more professional than anything we were using before that. So
That's
so
amazing.
there's some GPTs. I would say the GPTs have been most successful and most widely adopted. The things
Mhm.
that I'm doing on the lead generation are still kind of clunky at times, and they'll work a little bit, but it is marketing. So marketing, there's no real silver bullet to it.
Right. Yeah, I think what I'm hearing is like creating efficiencies in what you're doing is probably the best use case for AI at
Yes,
this point.
I would say the
Yeah.
marketing part has been less fruitful than the efficiencies have been to date.
Yeah, that makes sense. So when you say lead generation for that you're doing marketing with, is that for new potential flip projects? Is that for new agents to join the team? Like what type of leads are you trying to acquire?
There's a lot of different things that we're trying to do. So, like a prime example would be for property management, as an example. So, let's say a property has been on the market for 60 days and it hasn't sold. I would like to create a message that goes to that realtor that says, hey, I've noticed this property's been on the market for a long time. Have you ever considered talking to your clients about renting it? And we'll provide you with a listing protection guarantee where we send it back to you at the end of the lease, and you can still be the hero, and the client can live to fight another day. So those are like an example of the use case for how we're using AI. And the way that we're doing that is using N8N. We're connecting it to the MLS grid, which is where all the data lives, and we're pulling things in based on triggers, putting it into a CSV file, basically, where the information can live, and then back piped into our CRM via an API connection, and then it goes on a drip campaign. So it's almost like as many of those as you can come up with is what I'm trying to do. I want there to be a situation where somebody goes into pre-foreclosure, and I'm already getting that information and getting their phone number, getting their email, getting their social media handles, hitting them with messages. I want to try and automate as much as I can on the lead gen side as well.
Absolutely. And honestly, that speaks volumes about what all agents could be potentially doing, right? Like even when it comes to FISBOs, somebody puts a FISBO up on the MLS and all of a sudden that homeowner is getting bombarded with calls from people. But if you're able to like get that and automate messages out the door faster than anyone else, you have a little bit higher of a chance of winning that business.
Yeah,
Um,
first
so yeah,
advantage. Sure.
really creative ways to use AI. I love to hear all of this. And so, what I'm hearing is like you are still very hands-on, right? Like I think you said I'm like bashing my head against the wall until I have a breakthrough. So what do you think like your level of involvement has been like, or why do you think your level of involvement has been important for your success?
I think that what I'm really providing more than anything is the vision and showing people what I think could be possible, like the ideas of how this could be done. So, a lot of these same techniques I had done manually at various points in my life because, for example, reaching out to real estate agents with old listings to try and get referrals. I mean, that's tale as old as time, but now I'm trying to make it to be something that could be done automatically, but still feel very personalized and that's the right thing. So I don't know. When I say bashing my head against the wall, it's because every single one of them seems very easy in concept. And then there's always some sort of roadblock that you weren't accounting for. Like, primary example, in the MLS, if I want to search for duplexes, I just have to filter by multifamily. But when I'm pulling the data out of the MLS grid, that's not one of the fields. It's missing there. Like, it has a limited scope of all the different fields. So I have to then search by property type and then filter by residential income property in order to find duplexes and multifamily properties. So there's always more steps and additional complications than you had originally anticipated that require a lot of patience. And
Mhm.
I'm very impatient. So then I need young guns who are willing to spend 4 hours on one problem. So I tend to be like the chief delegating officer of my vision and then come back to them and hopefully they've got it solved.
Yeah, I love that. And how have you been finding these people that are coming together and, coming to these resolutions for you or building solutions for you?
The majority of them are local talent. And so once you start to put yourself out there as, hey, I'm an entrepreneur in real estate and I've got this AI, and that's like obviously the biggest buzzword. You broadcast that on social media, a lot of times they're coming to me. Sometimes I'll meet people at networking events and I kind of know if they're under a certain age and they're taking an interest in what I'm talking about, it's possible I'll be able to work with them. And then I found that that wasn't enough though, because the interns aren't as reliable. So then we also added a second method, which is I use Upwork and other tools like that to be able to look for international talent. And I did multiple interviews in order to hire the guy that we ended up picking in Pakistan. But I pay him more than the president of Pakistan gets paid, and he's very loyal and hardworking for what I need done. When I say I got a challenge, he doesn't say no because it's a great gig for him.
No, that sounds amazing. It sounds like a perfect opportunity for he in Pakistan to help service you, but obviously you're treating him very well. So you're creating this growth partnership together where, he continues to deliver hopefully really high quality innovation for you and help service your business.
Because it's really difficult to get these things across the finish line when you're building them. Like, a lot of times they seem, like I said, conceptually easy, but then they fall apart in the details. So what I really needed was somebody who wasn't going to give up and who was going to persist through the difficulty in creating these things. So I feel like I found that now with this guy, and that's been pretty pivotal for me, is having somebody who's like, has like a real can-do attitude.
Absolutely. That's so important because a lot of this is hard work and it is like figuring out all these really, intricate systems piece by piece. So it deals with a lot of patience, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Um, so I know, transitioning over a little bit to like your investment strategy, I know that you are doing kind of a little bit of flips and holds as well. So with cap rates being low in your market, what does a good deal look like for you in today's market? And how do you see AI helping with deal flow acquisition in the future?
Sure. Well, it's nearly impossible to make a buy and hold work in the current market conditions. The cap rates are around 6.5% on residential property, and the interest rate I can borrow at is, above 7. So why would I do that? So what we've been focused on lately is doing some assignments and also buying, fixing, and flipping. So I'm really looking for a certain ratio between what the ARV on that property is and what I can buy it for. So as long as I can tend to make about $5,000 per week, I have to hold this property during renovation. So if I think it's a 6-week renovation, I'm looking for about a $30,000 margin between what I got to buy it for, what the rehab costs, what all my transactional costs are, and what I believe that ARV to be. And so these days I use a third party as a realtor, somebody who runs the realty division of our company, to provide me some objectivity on my ARVs so that I don't try and make deals work that aren't there. We've tried to find a way to, make it as objective as possible as we evaluate numbers. So we've got 2 different people that look at the construction numbers and one or two on the ARV, and then it's kind of blindly put together and averaged out. So it's all about systems, though, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm not a systems guy by trade. I'm more of a visionary entrepreneur. These days, I look for people who are systems oriented, and I try and bring them in because in Atomic Habits, they say you won't rise to the level of your goals, you'll fall to the level of your systems. And so that's why I really focus on it more now than I.
Absolutely. Well spoken and well said. So tell me future thinking, what does the next 6 months to 1 year look for Fuse Realty? And what are some goals that you're looking to accomplish?
Well, we do a lot of events, and we're doing like free education in order to get people to come and learn from us. And so we've been starting to do more surveys, and those surveys are to be able to capture information so that we can, market more to these people in our in our local marketplace. So what I'm about these days is trying to attract all the best real estate professionals in my market into my orbit and to find ways for us to collaborate together. And I think the lead generation is where I really want to make my name. I feel like if I can solve some of this AI lead generation stuff and have myself diversified across, various business lines, the rest should really fall into place.
Yeah, I love
Try
that.
to make it rain.
That makes a lot of sense. I know a lot of brokers right now are really focusing too on recruitment and trying to get more agents to join their brokerage. And so I kind of see that as the same endeavor where it's like just trying to connect with more agents in your high producing agents in your area, right? That can help either bring you deals or, anything along those lines. So really interesting.
Yeah.
Last question for you. If you had a magic wand and you could wave it and change anything in your business, this could be something that's, a re redundant task, something that you just absolutely hate, anything. What would you change?
I mean, this is like probably too big of a wish, but to not have to repeat myself. uh, if people could just understand it or understand me on the first time. But as far as being more realistic, though, I would just say it's if we could create a policy around everything that we discuss and agree on, and everybody could understand it and follow it and use it. Like, I think where things really go awry in my business or any business is communication breakdowns, being too slow to respond, any of these kind of stuff. The more that you can use AI to supplement and kind of raise the floor, then use standard operating procedures to raise it even more, and then have it be supported by remote workers for cheap to raise it another level. Everything I'm doing is all about trying to kind of raise the floor for how we have our processes. And
Yeah,
so I think AI is going to have a big role in that. And that's all I'm really focused on is, better systems and more leads. And if you can do those two things, everybody in your orbit is going to be very happy.
absolutely. I love that. Sounds like you're a great leader at a great organization. And I think once you roll out, a bunch of policies and make it very easy for people to find them, hopefully there's a very high adaptation level. One would hope, right?
I
Um,
hope so.
yeah. Well, Ryan,
Guardrails are important to
what
go
was that?
fast. I think guardrails are important if you want to move fast. I mean, if people sometimes think that they're a bad thing, but think about like if you were going to cross a bridge and it was dark and there was no guardrails, you'd have to go really slow. But if it's well lit and there's signs and lines and stuff like that, you can fly across it, right? And so I think that those things actually give us the ability; those boundaries allow us to move more quickly. So.
I love that. Well said. Once again, you got great analogies up your sleeve. It's fantastic. But Ryan, no, I love how you created such an interconnected business. Property management, construction, mortgage, networking, everything just adding synergy to what you do. So, I'd love to, your story just really stands out and it just shows like you're not chasing just AI trends. You're testing, you're iterating, you're learning how it fits into the real estate business engine. So this has been such a powerful conversation about what it takes to innovate in real estate and how persistence is, just as big as a role as the technology is. So for
No.
anyone who wants to connect with you, how can they reach out?
Well, Fuse is spelled Fuze, fusere.com is our website. You can find me on socials, Ryan M. Schroder. If you want to find me on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn, any of those type of things. But I'm sure we can drop some deets in there at some point, or maybe in
Yeah.
the captions or something.
I'll put everything right in the details of the show notes. Absolutely.
Well,
Well,
you do a
again,
wonderful job of hosting this podcast as well. You
thank
made it very
you.
fun, engaging, and interesting, and you have wonderful questions, and you do a
Thank
great job too.
Yeah, I hope other people find it just as engaging. I loved this conversation. So thank you so much, Ryan. And to everyone listening, thank you as always for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe below. And once again, thanks for listening to the Ascend podcast, where real estate meets innovation. We will see you next time.